So I wanted to talk a little bit about why Crispy is not going to be able to silence the Exoticals. And for those of you guys who are not aware, Crispy the Colorism Catfish tried to take my channel down a few weeks ago. She tried and failed, and here we are. But the interesting thing about it is, shortly after my interaction with her, Exoticals United went and posted an entire bomb really exposing the Colorism Catfish, the entire hypergamy grift, by essentially just showing her actual photos, the ones that she's been trying to hide from the internet for quite some time. That's actually been available. See, and here is exactly why Crispy the Colorism Catfish wants to hide her image, because her image actually undermines her entire message, which is about dark-skinned, unambiguous Black women leveraging the current system to level up and expand their options to non-Black men who are highly desirable. Enjoying nice spaces and places, elevated lifestyles and experiences, and overall living an elite and elevated lifestyle that is distinctive from your average Black woman, especially distinctive from the hood chicks. She talks about providing feminine strategies and tries to instruct women to successfully level up and successfully elevate into these different spaces and places by following her advice and basically giving them feminine strategies on how to basically up their life, how to be hypergamous, how to improve their class, how to improve their social and financial standings. And so all of her channel alleges to be about cultivating an elite and upper scale space for specifically dark skinned, unambiguous women by leveraging the current system that is available today. But the challenge and the problem with that is that she's fat. And being a fat Black woman in America and the West does not equate to hypergamy or level up standards. And she's aware of this. She is aware that unfortunately, fat Black women do face discrimination, and fat Black women do not have the ability to use their looks to level up. That's not to say fat Black women can't be happy or find love and success, but being a fat Black woman does not generally equate to being hypergamous or dating and marrying somebody specifically who is above your class. That is not what being a fat Black woman equates to socially. That is not the value given to fat Black women, or honestly, fat women in particular. Like, plus size women are very much discriminated against as far as their looks are concerned and as far as the access they are given into these elite spaces. This is exactly what the body positive movement was about. It was about trying to fight against the discrimination that fat women generally experience. And so, based upon that fact, her image and her actual lived lifestyle, coming from a working class environment, again, does not really lend to the idea of hypergamy. And listen, I've said this before. Anytime you hear women who talk a lot about hypergamy or level up, they usually don't have money. They usually don't have resources, because women who are born into those spaces and places are not concerned about that. They're more concerned about meaning. They're more concerned about finding things that give them joy and fulfillment. I found that upper class women who have the resources are a lot more times focused on finding things that fulfill them, whether it be through charities or whether it be through going on different spiritual retreats. They may go to Asia, they may go to Africa. They're going to look at different experiences. They're going to look at things that enrich their perspective. They're going to look at things that give them meaning, because all of their material needs have already been taken care of. So a woman who's constantly complaining about or talking about money or resources is already showing where they rank. Because that's not really how rich people flex. And if rich people do flex, they're flexing about things that are minimum hundreds of thousands of dollars. They're flexing about new cars that they got. They're flexing about experiences. They're flexing about art that cost $50,000. So again, I'm just sharing this as an example because we have to start to really recognize that a lot of things that people go online and talk about is not really reflective of reality. It's not how life works. So as I mentioned before, being a fat Black woman does not really fit into the hypergamous level up idea that is promoted, particularly in a Western white patriarchal system that these ladies advocate to try to use for their advantage. It just doesn't really work very well. She's aware of that. This is why she likes to try to hide her photo. That has been available on the internet now for a few years. With that said, the Exoticals again went out of her way to drop the bombshell to just remind the audience of who it is that they're listening to. And I want to just say this. There's nothing wrong with being a Black woman. There's nothing wrong with being a fat Black woman. Now, I don't think you should be fat if you want to be healthy, but I'm just saying, as far as like you being a horrible person, are you a horrible, evil, unlovable person because you're a fat Black woman? No, there are many a fat Black woman in America that's actually average. It's actually very relatable. The issue is if you are a fat Black woman who is trying to promote hypergamy, level up, upper class lifestyles and fantasies, that the two do not coincide. That is the problem. The issue is also if you are promoting a fantasy lifestyle you don't live and using that as a way to basically insult other Black people, insult other Black women, and openly disparage Black men. That is also a big problem, and that is also why you have people such as myself and Exoticals United and just other content creators start to challenge a lot of the rhetoric that's been coming out of Crispy the Colorism Catfish's space for quite some time because it's just gotten really toxic and rancid. And I know that because anytime a person or a space is so resistant to just basic reality and facts, that to me is always an indication as to how toxic the space is. With that said, the reason why I don't believe she can really respond to this recent video from Exoticals United is because to do so, again, is to invalidate her entire page, her entire message. Because think about it. Outside of her going behind the scenes and trying to do what she did to me and even did to Exoticals United in the past, like false flagging it, saying all these different things, trying to take it off up technicalities. Outside of that, she can't really address it publicly. The reason being is if she addresses the video that Exoticals United did about her publicly, there's going to be people on her page who go. There's going to be people who follow Crispy, who go to Exoticals United page, and they're going to see her photos. They're going to see how she actually looks. They're going to hear what Exoticals United has to say. And assuming those things are true, or if there's even any semblance of truth, that's the very last thing she wants her audience to hear. And so it's better for her to just ignore it. It's better for her to just pretend it doesn't exist or to just not acknowledge it and hope that less people are going to see it and then her do what she tries to do, which is take it down behind the scenes. That's what she tried to do to me, and that's actually what she tried to do the Exotical space in the past. But the thing about it is, I always say the truth always comes out in the end. And the truth is very liberating. There is literally nothing wrong with being a Black woman. There's nothing wrong with being a Black woman from a working class environment. There's nothing wrong with being a fat Black woman who's on a health journey or maybe needs to embrace a health journey. Like, there are many Black women who are in that position. I am just saying, let's not use it as an example to promote a fantasy and then to go out of your way to always disparage Black men and Black women and mixed Black women or just Black women who just go against, who challenge the grift. And I really want to challenge this narrative that the entire Black American community goes out of their way to just constantly bully dark-skinned Black women. Like, that is just legitimately not true. The reality is we run into some cowardly Keisha behavior. This is what I ran into in this particular scenario. When someone does something or says something or shows some behavior that is less than desirable, instead of acknowledging that or admitting that they're doing wrong, then you want to play victim, then you want to try to fill the system against people, then you want to blame the community, or you want to blame Jermaine. And that has nothing to do with being dark skinned. That just has to do with a character flaw. And the thing is, all of us have character flaws. Every single person, including me. I have areas where I need to grow. I am still growing. I have areas of improvement. Everybody does. But I'm just saying, like, if there is an inability to acknowledge that, you can't blame that on dark skin. You can't say that's because of colorism, featurism, texturism. At that point, that is a character issue. People are so resistant to the truth or anything that resembles it, they will do everything that they can to deflect from it. But the truth always comes out at the end. And this is exactly what spaces like the Exoticals United or just the existence of the Exoticals themselves does. The Exoticals themselves, they completely invalidate the colors and crybabies. Because let's think about it. At the core, you have dark-skinned, unambiguous Black women who are consistently arguing with the women that they essentially want to create. That is insanity. These colorism crybabies are crying because they cannot attract the upper class, the upper middle class, white and non-Black men that they want. They cannot attract them in any significant way. This is why the interracial marriage rate has barely budged since Loving versus Virginia. Again, white men are not going out of their way to try to wife up or level up fat, Black, unambiguous dark-skinned women. This is why they complain about the isn't. The exoticals can, or they be byproducts of women who were able to do so. So dark-skinned, unambiguous, plus-size Black women complaining and bickering with the women that they ultimately wish they could create is actually, in my estimation, it's insanity, and that shows you how fraudulent this whole thing is. So you're going to continue to have exoticals speak out about their experience. You're going to continue to have dark-skinned Black women who identify as exoticals, or dark-skinned Black women who are beautiful or benefit from the isn't speak out. And as I mentioned before, a lot of this bickering and fighting and going back and forth, all it does, it goes back down to ugly girl problems. It goes back down to Black women themselves feeling like they are not beautiful or not being comfortable with who they actually are. And I think the best way to actually be fulfilled in your life is not to try to pretend or promote something you're not, but is to be in acceptance with who you are and make the best of that. Anything outside of that is just chasing the wind, and the truth will always come out in the end. But that's what I have, y'all. What do y'all think? Do y'all agree or disagree? Let me know down in the comment section. Also, be sure to check me out on Patreon, where I have the full scoop and all of the tea. Thank you so much for listening if you've gotten this far, and we'll talk later. Bye!